welcome Your Excellency Zaki Nusseibeh to AUS Campus Connections, Voices of Influence. It's a great honor to have you with us on this program.
It's my honor and privilege to be with you, Sultan.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, your career spans diplomacy, academia, and cultural diplomacy. How do these fields intersect in promoting global understanding and cooperation?
You know, I have been very fortunate in my professional career that all of this career was in the service of a remarkable leader, the founder of the Federation, whose rock-bed conviction has always been the building of bridges to promote understanding, cooperation, tolerance as the unique path to universal progress and prosperity, not only for his own people, but for the region and for the world. And this conviction, this belief remain the foundation block for today's leadership that is carrying us to these new heights, globally competitive. And in all these objectives, if you like, the three different domains you have mentioned work together, they interconnect in order to promote these, to build these bridges that promote understanding and tolerance. So diplomacy in itself, of course, requires information and deep knowledge with global forces, global issues. Academia, of course, provides the analysis, the studies, the expertise to help diplomats make their informed decisions. And cultural diplomacy equally helps in making this relationship not only between countries as a country to country, but between peoples as a people to people. So all these three domains, if you like, interconnect together in order to fulfill this vision of the founder of the Federation and our present leadership, in that it is through building bridges that promote tolerance, understanding, and cooperation that we can achieve prosperity, peace, progress for ourselves, for our neighbors, and for the rest of mankind.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Could you share insights into the importance of cultural exchange programs in fostering mutual respect and dialogue amongst diverse societies?
You know, Sultan, from the very outset of our history, of mankind's history, it was always the bringing together of people that started historic changes that led to civilization. Civilization, the development of civilization has always been contingent on countries, societies, cultures coming together in order to build a new future. And in today's world, we need that kind of culture of exchanges. We need that kind of public diplomacy in order to bring countries and societies together. And my personal experience with this has been extensive over the last 50 years.
Your Excellency, in what ways do you think education can be leveraged as a tool for promoting tolerance and combating extremism on a global scale?
Education has always been the prerequisite for development. This has been a bedrock conviction, of course, of Sheikh Zayed, and then of his successors, of our present leadership. Education is the tool, and it is a necessary tool that allows us to achieve the prosperity and progress and development that we aspire to. And sometimes we mix up what education is all about. And it's the difference in the Arabic language between at-ta'lim wa tarbiyah. In German, it is Erziehung and Ausbildung. At-tarbiyah, that is overall education, is not merely the cramming of facts into a child's brains, because nowadays, as you know, other sources are available for having this information available to the children. but education in its overall sense. Education means inculcating a sense, moral value, of a sense of a moral purpose. I truly believe that without this inculcation of a sense of moral purpose, of service, again, values that Sheikh Zayed held so dear to his heart, and that is today being particularly emphasized by our present leadership. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed was speaking recently about the need to bring up our children with the sunnah, the traditional, customary habits and tradition and heritage we grow up with. It is this education that gives children, that gives us the ability to develop critical thinking, and then to open spaces for communication, for understanding. So I would say education is the essential, the prerequisite for any advancement for any society in the world.
Your Excellency, you are Chancellor of United Arab Emirates University. You are cultural advisor to the President, and your involvement with various educational and cultural institutions is extensive. How do you see the role of these institutions evolving in the digital age?
Sultan, this is as with all technological revolutions, and we are living a new revolution, a fifth revolution, if you like, and possibly very soon a sixth one. With all these revolutions, there are always advantages and disadvantages. There are always, as the economist described them, the doomers and the boomers. Those who believe that this technology will open new horizons, and those who worry that these technologies will impact negatively our progress. And I believe we are somewhere in between. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. What we need to do as universities, as educational institutions, is adapt those technologies as we have been doing, and then set them within the constraints of controls that we are aware of. The advantages are clear to see. We have just been through 2 years of COVID, for instance, where education moved online. And the UAE was well equipped to move all of its education online because it had the infrastructure. I knew this, for instance, from the Sorbonne University in Abu Dhabi, which went far ahead of the mother Sorbonne University in Paris in providing this online education. We know that the digitalized now archiving that exists is of immense help to students. We know that there is the intelligent blackboard, the use of virtual reality, of enhanced reality. All of these technological ideas can help our education process, and in particular the advancement of artificial intelligence. But equally, there are the disadvantages that we need to be aware of. There is the question of equality of access. Not everyone has equal access to these digital offer. We know that today, for instance, our museums, our cultural institutions are digitalizing their artifacts and putting them online for people to gain access to, but we need to make sure that this can also reach other parts of society. There are other issues of intellectual property. There are issues of the value of the information that young people have access to today, whether it is misinformation or actually quality knowledge. And finally, and most importantly, I believe, we have the question of the moral purpose I mentioned earlier in my comments about education, because the major worry about developing a pure intelligence that is not bound by a moral set of values is a very dangerous concept. And we know that many scientists, including some scientists who developed artificial intelligence, have been warning us and are warning us about these pitfalls. And therefore we need, as with all these revolutions, to keep this balance, to know what we need in terms of adapting those technologies, and they will have major influence and impact on our education. It's amazing what you have access to today, but at the same time ensuring access to all, and moral values that can restrain artificial intelligence from going berserk.
Your Excellency, the UAE has been investing significantly in its cultural sector. How do you envision these investments shaping up the cultural landscape in the coming years?
You know, Sultan, personally, I have witnessed an amazing amazing developments, not an amazing developments in the last 55 years. Already we have the infrastructure, the cultural infrastructure that is global and advanced. Already we have invested in major institutions, in major developments that already are globally competitive. I talk here about the building of whether it's the major museums like the Louvre Museum, the first universal museum in the Middle East, the Sharjah Art Foundation, the Circle Avenue, the Art Dubai and Art Abu Dhabi events that we have every year, the Biennale in Venice, our artists, so our private museums that are beginning to also be developed now. So I believe that those changes have been remarkable. But as with everything in the UAE, I believe that the next 50 years, for my children and grandchildren, they are probably going to see as an amazing leap into new horizons, as I witnessed myself in the last 50.
Your Excellency, what advice would you give to young leaders and educators aiming to promote cultural understanding and inclusivity in their communities?
You know, I believe the most important thing for any leader, in effect, is to be a role model, himself or herself, to her students. So the leaders have to lead by example. They have to show what they need, and they have to show that they are at the forefront of a community action. And then I believe they need to be able to listen, and listen attentively, actively to those they work with, and with empathy, to be able to understand the different perspectives. I believe that they need to create new spaces for cross-cultural activity and exchange, because, as you know, culture today is not limited to one genre or the other. Museums today also have music concerts, musical concerts. They have DJ events. They bring dance and music and art. So they need to encourage those cross-cultural activities, and they need to cooperate, collaborate, not only locally but also regionally and internationally. And I believe the most important, probably, requirement, need for this kind of leadership is to impress upon oneself as a leader, but also upon those around one, that education is a life commitment, that you need yourself as a leader to continue educating yourself in the same way that all those working with you need to continue educating themselves in new fields, because there are new discoveries and there is a new understanding, a new perspective that is around the corner every day.
That's right. Your Excellency, could you share some examples of successful cross-cultural collaborations or initiatives that have inspired you during your career?
I have seen, Sultan, so many inspiring events during my life. If I remember, the very first cultural event I helped, if you like, in orchestrating was taking a group of folkloric singers and dancers from Abu Dhabi to Geneva. That was in the 60s, because Sheikh Zayed wanted a kind of musical evening to show some of the heritage of Abu Dhabi and the UAE in Switzerland. And the students who came with me on a bus from the airport looked at the green and looked at the water of the Lac Le Mans, and he told me, you know, Ustad, I have been dreaming of what paradise looks like, and now I know what it really could be like. And since then, we have seen so many inspiring institutions, events happen. Again, I mean, I can mention some examples, beginning with the Louvre Museum, Abu Dhabi, and the Sorbonne University, and the New York University, and the American University in Sharjah. You look at the Sharjah Biennale, you look at the Art Foundation. I'm hoping this afternoon to go and look at some major, again, global exhibitions that are on show today. And then you look at what happened in terms of the COP28, for instance, summit that brought the world after a period of COVID sadness, if you like, in order to bring minds together, to work for the future together. The Expo 20 that did the same task. Everything we see around us is inspiring, and everything we continue to see around us. I was at the book fair only last week in Abu Dhabi, for instance, that was celebrating Najib Mahfouz. We saw the offer of prizes for the Sheikh Zayed book prize. Every day there is a new thing happening. And today, as I was driving through University City, I went back to my first visit to the American University of Sharjah with a British diplomat who was here in the 40s and who had become a dean of a master of one of the colleges in Oxford after being the undersecretary at the foreign ministry. And I took him around the university, and he told me, this is more glorious than Oxford University itself. And I think to myself, if I am to bring him today now, 20 years later, to see the university city around us, what will he say? So everything that we see around us is inspiring because it is based on this basic, I called it rock foundation, that building bridges that promote tolerance, understanding, cooperation, that bringing education to our young, to our youth, but also education to ourselves. That education means also culture. Education is not a curricula that you study at school, but it's a whole building of a character with a moral purpose that is set to serve its community and its society. All of these I find as inspiring cultural, if you like, achievements around us, and I expect to see that continue also.
Your Excellency, how can government and private sector entities work together more effectively to support and promote cultural and educational initiatives in the UAE and globally?
You know, this is a new line, if you like, of important development that needs to take place if we are truly to make our cultural scene in the Emirates a dynamic and a sustainable one. So far, of course, we have had the government, the public sector, that invests heavily in culture, and that is important, and that needs to continue. It needs public sector finance to do the infrastructure, the major museums, the major avenues for art. The government's public sector needs to continue to support creative industries, not only because it's important as cultural development, but because it is also economic sense. Most of the, for instance, modern museums in the world, 70%, I was reading an article in the Frankfurter Allgemeine recently that said was built in the last 40 to 50 years. So even advanced industrial societies realize that investing in culture is economically solid and beneficial. But now we need, on the other hand, we've had a private sector, and particularly in areas like in Dubai, where you have a very dynamic private sector. We've had a private sector that also was contributing to this development of a rich cultural ecosystem around us. But it's not enough. I believe now we need to bring the two even closer together. I believe in the same way that, for instance, Art Dubai or Art Abu Dhabi has brought in joint sponsorship with companies. We need to do this further. We need to set up these PPP partnerships, for instance, that would set up joint financing perhaps, where the public sector can offer what it can do best, and where the private sector can use its expertise in order also to help. So I believe this is an area that requires far more attention. I believe, for instance, that public sector should help collectors like yourself. You have made a Middle East collection that is truly a pride in the Middle East as a whole and globally, that has been shown globally. It is being shown, part of it now, in the Sharjah museums, but we need to promote also private foundations. Government needs to help, support, build, and yes, contribute. And in the end, it's not only sound cultural policy, it's also sound economic policy, and it is the only way that would ensure that it is sustainable. And I would like to salute here, for instance, Abdel Menam Sirkal, because there you have the private sector that had started on this wonderful project of his to have the avenue, which today brings attention worldwide and contributes to the attraction of an elite audience to the Emirates. So I believe there is much to be done here. We have started, but there is much to be done here as well.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Coming to our final question, looking ahead, what do you believe are the key challenges and opportunities in the intersection of culture, education, and diplomacy, particularly in the Middle East region?
You know, we have dire challenges in the region and worldwide today, even, undoubtedly. Now, I've just finished reading a book by Ghassan Salame, which is called The Temptation of Mars, La Tentation de Mars, which talks about the breakdown in the international order that we have been witnessing in the last 10 to 15 years. The partisanship that is spreading through societies, both in the developing world as well as in the industrial world. We are talking about a region here, if you look around us, of conflict, of tensions, of confrontations, and often based on religious or ethnic or nationalist histories and narratives. And all of this is worrying. We look at a region that also has many children today in many parts of the Middle East. Let me talk about the Middle East, in Syria and Iraq, in Libya, elsewhere, in Palestine, of course, in Gaza. So we have all these challenges that are looking us in the face and that continue to be a major challenge to our future. Now, at the same time, I can see opportunities in terms of cultural exchanges, of cultural development, of artistic creation, because we have a huge culture within the region. You know, the Arab culture, the Islamic culture, which was a universal culture. When we talk about an Islamic civilization, it is not just an Arab Islamic civilization. It was Persian, it was Byzantine, it was everything together. It was also Jewish thinkers and writers like Maimonides writing in the Arabic language. It had people from all backgrounds and ethnicities and religious belongings coming together in order to create one civilization. So we have this rich cultural heritage. That is one major opportunity we need to use in order to develop what you are doing with Middle East art, what you have been doing, for instance, with emphasizing the importance of women artists in the Middle East. But also we have our second major advantage, which is the fact that the Arab world, the Middle East, is a young population. So we have our youth, and this youth they have access to information. They have access to an education that can be a world-class education, and they have the ambition to do more and to see more. And we have seen this happening in societies that were very conservative, like Saudi Arabia, where again the Saudi youth was there and in strength, and you see it when you go to the biennales, when you go to the art festival. So it is, how can we really arm our youth with the education, the culture, the creative vision, the perspectives, the critical thinking, in order to overcome the challenges that stand in our way.
Your Excellency, I'm reminded of a saying that goes, may you live in interesting times. And I think this maybe sums up a little bit of your experience. We are so grateful, Your Excellency Zaki Nusseibeh, Chancellor of UAE University and cultural advisor to the UAE President, for being our inaugural guest on this podcast series, AUS Campus Connections, Voices of Influence. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. And you know, my last comment in this podcast, and thank you for what you have said, is to say that unlike the prognosis of Talleyrand and the Bourbons, where he said they forget nothing in their history, but they learn nothing, I hope that within the Arab world, and because of initiatives like yours, that the world will learn and will be able to move forward. This is the only way that we can overcome these challenges around us.
Thank you, Your Excellency, so much.